Okay, so which one doesn't belong? You have four options. They are all questions. Raise your hand if you think that A does not belong. All right, raise your hand if you think that B does not belong. Raise your hand if you think that C does not belong. And raise your hand if you think that D does not belong. Okay, so it's mostly A and C from what I'm seeing. Usually with the which ones do not belong, there's usually a reason you can come up with for each one. So I challenge you to do that, even if like it's not the one you chose initially. But table one, most of you picked A as not belonging. Why would A not belong? Okay, so A is very specific to potato chips. The other ones just say bag of chips, what type of chips, what type of chips. This one is specific to potato chips. Can anyone think of another reason this one doesn't belong? I was actually thinking it's a different reason it doesn't belong, but that one works, right? Like none of the others say potato chips. Yes. In this bag. So can there be multiple right answers for that one? If I say how many potato chips are in this bag of chips, should there be different answers? Uh, yeah, there should be different answers. Okay, I feel like you guys are not listening because you're saying weird things. If I asked how many students are in this class, should we have different answers from each other? No, right? So there's what? That's not actually 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18. Because she's a student too. You can't say a different number. There's only 18 students in here. Like there's only one right answer. If I'm talking about a specific bag of chips, there's only one right answer. So there could be multiple reasons. Here's 2 reasons why A is not so long. I didn't see any hands for B. Maybe we got shy because we saw that that wasn't a popular choice. There is a reason B does not belong. I could read you the answer in a second. But a lot of you had your hands up for C is not belonging. So, table 6, why does C not belong? Okay, so it's not numerical. I don't think question B, that answer would be numerical either. Like what type of chips do students in this class prefer? That would also be not numerical. So it has to be like not numerical and something else. So let's go back to the only one right answer. Usually there's vocabulary in each lesson. We don't spend time usually writing it out unless it's super important that you know the exact definition. There's going to be lots of different things we discussed today as far as vocabulary. A non-statistical question is what seems to be coming up a lot in our warm-up. So a non-statistical question is a question which can be answered by a specific measurement or procedure where there's no variability expected. So like I said, you can't give me different answers for how many students are in here, like maybe 17 or 18, depending on count my TA or not. But there shouldn't be a big variation in that. So we could say C does not belong because it's not numerical. And it's not statistical either. Because there's other questions that are also not statistical. Statistical. I probably spelled it wrong. Anyway, this one's not statistical, but the answer would be a number. So that could be why each of these don't belong. There are reasons that B and D don't belong, so let's see what the book came up with, and there are reasons. Okay, so B, what is the typical number of chips in a bag of chips? The reason why that one doesn't belong is because it would require you to not only survey everybody, but to do a little bit of math to get that answer. Whenever we use the word typical, think like average or median. All right, so this one requires statistical analysis, which this unit is statistics, which is why this is all coming up, which you might have seen if you started the IXL extra credit, like it's all about statistics. And question D does not belong because it's statistical and would require categorical data to answer it. And the way that you would answer it is by looking for the answer that's repeated the most often. So it's statistical, but you would also have to find the mode. Mode means most common. This one over here, you would find the average, or not average, but yeah, we would find the average because of the word typical. All right, so there are reasons. You might just have to think really hard for them. Granted, we haven't talked about anything much yet, so you were just going off of feelings and small things that you could pick up on. Today is our official first lesson of our unit 1. Here's the goal. It'll always be in the slides, whether I show the slides or not. There's a slideshow for every day, and they'll always be in Schoology. Guys, look up at the screen. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for you. But if anyone were to walk in and they usually like to ask, what are you doing today? What are you learning today? You can reference the learning goal and learning target, which is right there on the whiteboard. Because this only show you for about 30 seconds when we talk about it. It's always on the whiteboard so that you can refer to it. So the goal is just generally what we're doing. So we're working together to collect data and explore statistical questions. This learning targets are how you can check off, like, did you meet the goal? So can you tell statistical questions from non-statistical questions and explain the difference? Can you tell the difference between numerical and categorical data? So people that look important love to hear that. Like, this is how you know you've learned it. This is what we're doing. This is how you know you've learned and met the goal. If you didn't notice, I am recording right now. I think I'm trying to decide what class I like to regularly record in. So first hour is kind of rough because it's like the morning and, you know, it's the first time I'm teaching it that day. I do get better as the hours go on, but we'll see. It's either going to be this hour or fourth hour, but I like to get it done early and posted so that everyone has it. Mostly I record for students that are absent because most of what we do in here is activity based. It requires you to think about something so that you can apply it later on versus me just telling you the definitions. I could tell you all the definitions and make my life super easy, but that's not the point. When you get to these questions on your quiz and tests about is this statistical or non-statistical, I want you to think about what we're doing today. And you'll think back to this activity and remember, oh, this is non-statistical because blah, blah, blah. All right. So when you are absent, and a lot of people told me they already have stuff planned that they know they're going to be absent for, I publish the whole week's worth of material at the start of every week. I'm usually very well planned ahead. You can look at the videos from last year. I mean, the lessons have not changed very much. These are videos from last year. But still, I record the day of and post it here so that you get all these little announcements that I'm saying right now. Okay, so there's no reason. I don't love it when people ask me what they missed because like I can't catch you up on an hour's worth of material in a 5-minute conversation. I say, look at Schoology, take your notes. You're still responsible for taking notes when you're absent. So you can either do it on your own paper, you could come back and get the paper from the bins, you could get it in advance if you know you're gonna be gone in advance. But it's definitely not my job to give it to you. I'm making it your job to either ask for it or get it yourself. All right. Anything that is homework, you usually have a practice for every day. It's usually online. Occasionally it'll be on paper, and even when it is on paper, there will still be a link for you to turn it in online. If it's ever on paper, I usually check it once, and then any late submissions you turn in online. I don't often collect things in this bin back here, aside from like your syllabus and your tests. Everything else gets turned in online, or I check it briefly and repeat it. So most of our work though is online, it's auto-graded. You get 2 attempts automatically. If you need a 3rd attempt, you just need to ask. But I just like to make sure you're not cheating and trying to guess your way through it. There's lots of ways to cheat nowadays. I just find it to be such a big waste of time. I spent summer school, teaching that, and I could just tell like a lot of these kids must have spent years cheating because they don't do anything for themselves. Not all of them, in case they do watch my videos, they know I like those videos, but like it's just very easy to tell when someone's just trying to get the 100% on their homework because then they're not doing well on their tests. Usually kids that do their homework and actually try versus just look up the answers or ask their friends do really well in here. So even though homework's only worth 10%, that doesn't mean you should just like waste your time. Actually try it. They're usually not very long. Less than 10 questions, usually less than 5 questions. Do it yourself and don't wait till the end of the unit to get it done. If you did not finish your diagnostic tests yesterday, then you need to. I'm putting in those scores probably right after this class. You get a 10 out of 10 just for getting your overall math level down to a single number. If it's a range of numbers still, then it's a 0 out of 10. So you either get a 0% or 100% for your first assessment. You can still finish it if you haven't, but there's no longer class time for it. So make sure you're getting that done. All right, I've been talking a lot, so stay with me, make sure you're paying attention. Just reminding you of the other things I talked about very first day. There's other extra credit opportunities that you can take advantage of and have like as a buffer for your grade. So feel free to refer to that in the slides. And your syllabus was actually due yesterday. If by today they're not turned in, I am going to start messaging home because the parents need to know that I'm serious about everything in the syllabus. I know sometimes your parents don't read like your syllabus from all your teachers. Mine is super important, especially if you're trying to like turn things in late or like break rules. Like you need to make sure you know the consequences and it's all in there. All right, no major assessments for a while. I mean, next week you have a benchmark test, which is similar to a diagnostic test. It's just data for us. So do try your best when that time comes. But as far as like being assessed on things that I've taught you, the first quiz is going to be Monday, August 8th. And it's going to be over those lessons, 1 through 9. I do let you use notes on your quizzes. So if you were ever absent, make sure that, I'm telling you the dates in advance. Make sure that by that date, you have your notes ready, you watch the video, you ask questions so that you can do well on that quiz. And then the first major assessment are these dates and stuff, but I don't want to talk too much. I'm already giving you a lot of information. What you need to know right now is that what you're taking notes on is your note sheet. Okay, that paper right that's in front of you is not your homework. Your homework was that green assignment I showed you that's in school with you. You go back to it in case you were zoned out. Okay, this is your homework. Most of the time you will have to do your homework at home. We're very busy in here. What you're taking notes on right now will be for your binder check, so you need to save your notes and do your notes for August 27th. Questions? Okay. And FYI, you can use notes on quizzes, not on unit tests. So just keep your notes for your binder checks, and that's 20% of your grade right there. Okay, so now what's actually on your notes is this activity that you'll be doing. So in your baskets, or maybe they left them outside of the basket, but you should find a set of 3 questions. Anything that I need you to access, like for example, let's talk about the basket for a second. It has your table number on it. It has a whiteboard in it. You can use the whiteboard. You could use your own whiteboard markers and write on the desk. Whiteboard markers, so just that. And then also in there, you'll see some little like math talk bookmarks. There should be enough for the people at your desk to use whenever we're practicing our conversational skills. So when I'm asking you to, critique each other, to discuss something, it has sentence starters. Like, I agree with you because blah, 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 or I disagree with you because blah, blah, blah. Like, we need to have reasons. You can't just say, oh, that's dumb. I should prefer you not talk like that to anybody, but you can't just not have justifications and not know how to talk to people. It's really important stuff. All right, but anyway, in there will be any other materials I need you to have for the lesson. So for today, head up please. For today, you have a slip of paper with 3 questions on it. You are going to write those questions in the form of a survey question. So for example, this table, their first question says, about how long did it take students in the class to get to school this morning? If I want to find the answer to that, I'm not going to go up to someone and say, about how long did it take students in this class to get to school this morning? If I wanted to figure that out, what would I actually ask? You would say, how long did it take you to get to school? Right? And then you would look at that data and believe using math, but we're converting these to survey questions. On your paper, you have a table that looks like this. You have a little bit of room, not a whole lot of room, but you have a little bit of room to write down your survey question. So if I was that table, so don't write it down unless your question one is also about how long did it take students to get to school this morning. For that question, I would put how long did it take you to get to school then? My pen is really thick, so you're just gonna have to squeeze it in there. And again, don't copy that unless your question one is the same. You all have unique questions. You're gonna do the same with question 2 and 3. Make it a survey question that you can ask your classmates. For question 4, that can be whatever you want, and you don't have to do the same as your group. You can pick your own question. But this lesson is called Getting to Know You, so you are gonna get to know your classmates a little bit more. You can ask them whatever you want. You could ask them, oh, what time were you born? Whatever you want to find out, put it for question 4. It does not have to be the same as your group. So take 3 minutes to make your survey questions based on your little slip of paper, and then whatever you want for question 4. There's only 1 slip per group, so don't hog it. I'll let you know when you can get up and start asking your questions. About 3 minutes. If you did not get at least 5 people, then I need you to find other time, whether it's in this class, another class, to just ask your survey questions to people because I gave you about 15 minutes. I don't know. I just don't think 5 is, or less than 5 is like sufficient. All right. Communicating is a really important skill. Being able to ask questions is a really important skill. You cannot just opt out. You can't just ask like 2 people and then call it a day. The whole point is to be able to look at the different types of responses and see what the responses have in common. So we're going to do that right now. So yeah, if you got less than 5, I need you to like ask more people another time. Like I said, I am checking these notes at the end of the unit. I'm checking it on Wednesday, August 27th. That'll be your binder check. I expect you to have at least 5. Do I need you to have all 15? No, but like at least 5 minimum, otherwise you'll be. All right. But you're gonna look at your responses and you're going to answer these questions. I mean, yours are actually probably less questions than that, but it's on the back of your paper. So 1, 2, and 3, you're gonna answer about your data. So summarize the data for each question in a sentence or 2 and share the results with your group. Like what they have in common for each question. With your group, decide what the responses for question 1 have in common, then do the same for questions 2 and 3. And does the question you wrote, so like the one that you were allowed to ask whatever you want, your question 4, does that one best fit with questions 1, 2, or 3? All right, so briefly discuss with your groups, write some answers down for 1, 2, and 3 on the back of your paper about the data you gathered. So on the screen, you can see the different sets that were out there. We're going to show one thing at a time. So here's all of the question 1s from each set. So you in your group should have already looked at your responses for question 1 and noticed something. So here's all the question 1s that are out there. So some people had, on average, how many letters are in the last name for students in this class? On average, what's the furthest in miles that each student in this class has ever been from home? About how long did it take students in this class to get to school this morning? And on average, how many movies in the theater did each student in the class watch this summer? What do all of those questions, more so the responses, what do they have in common? What if you notice when you looked at that column for the answers to your question 1? Nothing. Nothing, you want to say anything? Yes? No. Okay, so we expect variability. Like we don't expect everybody to say the same answer, right? When we expect variability, would that make it statistical or non-statistical? Statistical or non-statistical? So we expect variability. We do not expect all the answers to be the same. So this would be that these are all statistical questions. And now tell me something about the responses. What should we notice about all of the responses? No matter what question 1 they had, what should the answers be? Are we paying attention? Because I don't think I'm asking hard questions. So let's make sure we're paying attention. I'll say it again. If I have to say it the 3rd time, I'm going to get annoyed. what should the responses to all of your question ones, no matter what the questions were, what should they all have in common? Go ahead and say it. Say it a little louder so I could hear it. They should all be a number. So all the responses should be numerical. That should be in the answer to one of those 3 questions that Van put in the bucket. So all responses are numerical. If you're a slow writer, then write faster. You should be on top of it. And practice your communication skills. They're gonna ask you the question. Should be able to respond verbally. All right, so here's all of the question 2s for each set. So which month has the most birthdays from the class? Would the class rather have a snow day or field trip day? Which combination does the class prefer? Peanut butter and banana or strawberry and banana? And does this class prefer to write on paper with or without line? First, tell me, would these be statistical questions? Do we expect there to be some variability? Are we all born in the same month? So we do expect variability, which would make these all statistical questions. All of your question 2s should be statistical questions when you made your survey question. All the responses have what in common for our question 2s, no matter what question 2 you had. Table 2?
No, they're all answered.
So words, not numbers. When that happens, we call it categorical data. So the data we got from that, we call it categorical, like categories. What else was there? You could also use the word qualitative. I want to make sure I say that because you might see it on a quiz. I don't want you to get confused. If it's more of a quality rather than a quantity, like a category, not a number, you could also say qualitative. If you're taking notes, I would go back and say that all of the number 1s are numerical / quantitative. So that when you see that on a quiz, those words sound the same, but they're not. Quantitative, like quantities. Qualitative, like qualities, would be your question 2. Questions on what I just said? So numerical versus categorical or qualitative. Now your question 3s also have something in common. Here's all the question 3s that were out there. How many periods or blocks have there been before this math class? In what year was the 13th Amendment ratified? What's the lightest element from the periodic table? And how many seats are in the classroom? What do these questions have in common? There's only one right answer. So should we expect there to be variability? Okay, so we expect there to be no variability. However, I bet not everyone in that column answers the same exact thing. Because they might not have known, they might have guessed, they might be wrong. I mean, this one should definitely be answered correctly. How many periods were there before this class? 1. But the others, I wouldn't necessarily expect you to know. Like these 2, you might have to Google. The last one, how many seats are in this classroom? I mean, there's 36 desks, but then you could count my chair, these other chairs that I have over here, so there could be some variability, but there's only one right answer. So these are all examples of what type of questions? Non-statistical. It'd be weird to make that a survey question, right? Wasn't it weird asking your classmates that? I wouldn't put that on a survey. So there is that. You could talk about the data for each one, like this could be numerical. But it's just non-statistical, so let's not even talk about data because we wouldn't ask it on the survey anyway. Now think about your question 4, because you all could have made your question for anything. You could have said, how many pets do you have? What's your favorite color? You could have said, I don't know, what's the capital of Arizona? What type of other question does your question 4 best relate to? Is it statistical with numerical data? Is it statistical with categorical data? Is it non-statistical? Think about that for yourself. I think you do have a spot to put it on the paper. So classify your question 4. And then we do have 5 minutes left. My last class did not have any time left. In these last 5 minutes, you could look at this lesson synthesis. Like, these are really good ways to see, like, do I understand the lesson? We don't often do every single question on every single note sheet. But also, if we ever do have time left over, usually I'll give you the time to start working on your practice, but it's only a few questions. So if you want to work on it later, it's definitely. Any questions right now? All right, so most lessons will take almost the entire amount of time. So make sure that you are doing your practice on your own, usually as homework, but they're usually not very long. Even though you have till the end of the unit to get it done without penalty, doesn't mean you should wait that long. And that concludes today.